Welcome back. Today we're looking at a monologue by Yara Zared, and this piece is a grenade. It goes after the Israeli media's silence on former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, hitting him on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein and a recording about quality immigration.
It is a grenade, you're absolutely right. But the thing with grenades is, if you don't throw them with real precision, they just make a lot of noise. They don't actually hit the target.
See, that's interesting, because I felt the sheer velocity of it was what made it work. She opens with Epstein, a global scandal, and then boom, right into this recording about demographics. It feels like she's just piling on the evidence.
And I get that, I do. If you already agree with her, you're nodding along. Yeah, he's a creep and a racist. But if you're trying to convince someone, anyone, on the fence, that pivot is a problem.
How so?
Well, think about it. You drop the name Epstein. That triggers a very specific, very dark set of associations in the listener's mind. We're talking about sexual predation, horrible crimes.
Right, the ultimate character hit.
Exact. But before your brain has even really processed that, she switches. She completely changes gears to a debate on, sociological demographics, Ashkenazi elitism?
They're two very different kinds of moral failure.
Totally different category. One is about criminal association, the other is ideological bigotry. And by just jamming them together without a bridge, it just feels like a list. Like she just Googled bad things Ehud Barak did.
And that dilutes the impact of both, is that what you're saying?
I think it does. I was still thinking about the Epstein flight logs when she started talking about North African immigrants. It gives you whiplash.
Okay, so what's the fix? You can't change the facts. They are two different things.
You can't change the facts, but you can change the frame. She needs to find the connective tissue. What's the shared DNA between, hanging out with a predator and dismissing Mizrahi Jews as non-quality?
Arrogance? A sense of entitlement?
Close. I think it's impunity, the core belief that you are simply untouchable. The argument shouldn't be, he did A and then he said B. It should be, the reason he feels comfortable categorizing entire groups of people is because he spent a lifetime being protected from the consequences of his choices.
Even when they involve monsters.
Even then. That tightens it up immediately, doesn't it?
It does. It turns two scandals into one psychological profile.
A sense of superiority that the media has, frankly, enabled.
So practically in the rewrite, she needs a bridging sentence.
I think more than just a sentence. It's a pivot point. She could say something like, the media's willingness to overlook his personal associations is exactly what empowers his ideological arrogance.
That does a lot of heavy lifting. It tells the audience, don't stop thinking about Epstein. This next part is connected.
Exactly. And it perfectly sets up her ending about the etra, the protected species. The shield protects him from the sex scandal and the race scandal. It's all one shield.
Okay, let's move into the meat of it then, the race theory part. She writes, I, as a woman of Moroccan and Iraqi descent, hear these words and understand exactly how he ranks us.
It's a powerful moment, very visceral. You can feel the hurt.
It is. And my first instinct was that this is the strongest part. It gives her standing. She's not just an observer here. She's the target of the slur.
She is the target. But, and this is the hard truth about this kind of critique, being the victim doesn't automatically win you the argument.
I want to push back on that. I mean, in this day and age, lived experience is kind of the trump card. If she says, this hurts me, who is anyone to say no, it doesn't?
Oh, then won't say no, it doesn't. His defenders will just say you're misunderstanding the context. They'll say he was talking about education levels or job skills, the economic needs of the country back in the 50s.
The rational defense.
The rational defense. And if she relies only on her emotional reaction, I know how he ranks us, she leaves the door wide open for them to dismiss her as, being overly sensitive.
So the emotion hooks the audience, but it doesn't actually close the trap.
Precisely. The old elite she's attacking prides itself on being logical, on being scientific. If you come at them with feelings, they just roll their eyes. You have to beat them on their own turf. You have to dismantle the logic.
How does she do that, though? The quote is about quality. That's a subjective word.
Is it? Or is it a dog whistle? She needs to deconstruct that exact word. She should say, okay, let's talk about your definition of quality. The recording contrasts quality with North Africa.
North Africa is a geography, not a skill set.
That's the crucial distinction. If he had said, we need more engineers, not more farmers, fine. That's an economic argument you can have. But he didn't. He mapped quality onto a place. And she needs to call that what it is.
Race theory.
Exactly. So instead of just saying, I am hurt, she should be saying, you are factually wrong.
Your ranking system is empirically broken.
Yes. And then prove it. List the contributions of North African immigrants, not just in a vague cultural sense. Be specific. Talk about the arts, the military, the sheer resilience that built the periphery. Prove that what he calls a demographic problem was actually the engine of the state.
That completely shifts the dynamic. It goes from, you insulted me, to, you fundamentally misunderstand the country you used to run.
And that makes him look incompetent, not just mean. For a former prime minister, incompetence is a much deadlier charge.
I like that. But just to play devil's advocate, does she risk losing momentum if she gets bogged down in a history lesson? This is a monologue, not a thesis.
It's a risk, sure. You don't want a 5-minute digression, but you can do it in a single powerful line. Something like, you looked at a generation of poets, warriors, and builders, and you saw a demographic problem. That is your failure, not ours.
Boom, yeah, that's the line right there.
It takes his quality argument and just flips it right back at him. It shows his definition is it's obsolete.
Okay, let's talk about the final third, where she pivots from Barak himself and turns her guns on the silent camp. The Mizrahi left, members of Knesset.
The enablers. And this is where the piece should be escalated. But for me, this is where it loses a bit of steam.
Really? I thought the line about them filling their mouths with water, the Hebrew idiom for silence, was pretty powerful.
It's poetic, yeah, but it's also vague. She says, where's the Mizrahi left? Where are the members of Knesset? It's like shouting at a crowd in a stadium. Everyone just looks at the person next to them.
It lets them all off the hook individually.
Completely. A general accusation is nobody's accusation. If you want to make a politician sweat, you have to be specific. You have to trap them in their own hypocrisy.
But is there a danger in naming names? It could sound petty or alienate potential allies.
Well, she's not trying to persuade these people. She's trying to shame them into action. And you can't shame a vague group. But I don't think she even needs to list names. She just needs to target their value.
Okay, so give me an example. How does she sharpen that knife?
She has to contrast their silence on Barak with their noise on everything else. She asks, where is his camp? Which is a passive question.
Right.
She should be asking, where are the voices that screamed when Dudu Topaz called us Chachahim? Where are the voices that wrote 1,000 op-eds when Yair Garbutz gave his speech?
She mentions them, but as examples of the attitude. You're saying she should use them as examples of the reaction?
Precisely. Use the precedent. When Topaz spoke, you condemned him. When Garbutz spoke, you analyzed him. But when Barak speaks, you are silent. That proves the silence is a deliberate choice.
And it forces them to answer a really tough question.
Which is,
does your commitment to equality stop when the offender is on your team?
that is the entire point of the piece right there. Is your anti-racism universal, or is it just partisan? If she doesn't ask that, she's letting them hide.
It's a real feeling of betrayal that comes. She writes that they thought they represented the traditional public.
It is betrayal. And that's why she needs to twist that knife. She could even say, you ask for our votes during election season, but you ignore our dignity when it's insulted by your leaders.
That's brutal, but effective.
It has to be. The media silence she's talking about is a thick wall. You don't knock down a wall by tapping on it politely. You need a battering. Logic, specificity, exposing hypocrisy. That's the battle.
So if we look at the whole structure, we have the offender, which is Barak,
The offense, his ideology.
and the enablers, the silent camp.
Offender, offense, enabler. That's a really clean way to put it.
And then she lands on the etrug metaphor at the end.
It is.
Which is beautiful.
It's a perfect metaphor. The citron fruit, wrapped in cotton wool, protected from any blemish.
But does it land with enough force right now?
It lands if she does the work we just talked about. If she's systematically proven the hypocrisy, if she's built the case, then the etrog metaphor isn't just a bitter comment. It's the QED. It's the undeniable conclusion of her argument.
The final nail.
Right. But you can't hammer the nail if you haven't built the coffin first.
So let's recap for Yara. 3 main fixes to take this from an angry rant to a targeted weapon.
Right. First, you have to fix that opening. Don't just list Epstein and racism. Bridge them. Show how they're both symptoms of the same disease of impunity.
Second, get intellectual with the quality argument. Go beyond the emotional reaction. Expose quality as a code word and prove him empirically wrong with the facts of Mizrahi contributions.
And third, you have to corner the silent camp. Stop yelling at a faceless crowd. Be specific. Use their past actions, their reactions to Topaz and Garbuz, and force them to confront their own hypocrisy.
And if she does all of that, That etrog ending will land like a hammer.
It'll be the only possible conclusion.
This has been great. I really hope she takes this and runs with it. The passion is there. It just needs that architectural support.
I'd love to see the next vert. It could be incredibly powerful.
Everyone listening, and to Yara, don't be afraid to be intellectual about your anger. Your emotion is what fuels the car, but logic is what steers it.
Well said.
We're looking forward to seeing the revision. Submit it again. We'll take another look. For now, keep writing, and we'll see you on the next critique.